At 04:45 a.m., June 6, 1944, off the coast of Normandy, the cold bite of the Channel wind hits his face. Captain Hugh W. Jones grips the wheel of his destroyer, his breath visible in the dark air. His mind races, the seconds ticking like sand through an hourglass. Not a single ship gets through, he mutters, eyes narrowing. The radio crackles to life beside him. Position report. Fortified guns open fire at 500 hours. Estimated shelling within 20 minutes. He tightens his grip, the vessel cutting through choppy waters, its steel hull groaning with each wave. Jones doesn't flinch. This is his plan, his gamble. A one-way trip to ram the port's massive gate and ensure the invasion fleet has a fighting chance. Around him the men, young, nervous, move in calculated chaos, their lives on the line. A port stands between them and victory, but first they have to break it. Time to ram. June the 6th, 1944, at 02:08 a.m., aboard the HMS Campbeltown, the engine roars beneath Captain Jones's boots as the ship cuts through the channel. His fingers run over the map on his lap, tracing the coastline of Normandy ahead. Saint-Nazaire lies ahead, where the Germans had installed the largest dry dock in Europe, a crucial point for their naval strategy. Jones glances at his watch. He's got less than 3 hours to make history. The vessel's displacement reads 190 tons, stripped down for speed and packed with high explosives in compartments sealed beneath the forward hold. "Sir, the men are ready," Lieutenant Parker reports from the bridge, his voice steady despite the cold. Jones only nods, his jaw tight. He knows it's not just the men he's responsible for, but the entire outcome of D-Day's naval approach. The ship has been outfitted with explosive charges designed to destroy the port's gate, but it'll only work if they get within close range. Too close for comfort, too close for survival. The ship's crew performs their final checks in near darkness. Some look eager, faces lit by the faint glow of instrument panels. Others appear terrified, hands trembling as they secure equipment. But all are focused on the task. Jones exchanges a glance with his navigator, Commander Reynolds, whose face appears pale even in the dim light. "We have one shot at this, Reynolds," Jones says quietly, his voice barely audible over the engine's rumble. The officer nods, understanding the weight behind those words. The HMS Campbeltown plows forward through the frigid waters, a silent predator cutting through waves that rise and fall in rhythmic patterns. Time is slipping away with each passing minute. They don't have the luxury of hesitation or second-guessing. The mission parameters are clear. Reach the target, deliver the payload, break the gate. Everything else is secondary. At 02:30 a.m., aboard the HMS Campbeltown, the ship begins to shake with a heavy vibration deep in its engine room as the team works to arm the explosives. A muffled conversation occurs in the background among the demolition crew, but the quiet tension on the bridge cuts through everything else. Jones's hand tightens on the rail, his knuckles whitening as his mind runs scenarios, wondering if his plan will actually work when put to the test. There's no backing out now, not with the fleet counting on this breach. "The moon's fading, Captain," Parker remarks, his voice low and measured. The clouds are beginning to roll in from the northwest, reducing visibility across the water. Jones's eyes narrow as he processes this information. Fewer eyes on us means fewer chances to intercept us before we reach the gate. His lips curl into a grim smile, though the uncertainty is a heavy weight pressing on his chest. The meteorological report had predicted cloud cover, and for once, the weather is cooperating. The closer they get to Saint-Nazaire, the more the chance of being hit by coastal artillery increases exponentially. German radar installations dot the coastline, their sweeping beams searching for Allied vessels. Still, Jones can't afford to hesitate or show doubt to his crew. If they miss this window, the invasion, and the lives of thousands of men waiting on landing craft will be jeopardized. The strategic importance of opening this port cannot be overstated. Keep the course, Jones says firmly, his voice carrying authority that masks his internal calculations. Parker moves to relay the order, but then pauses. "Sir?" Parker interrupts, turning back. "Are you certain we're ready for this?" The question hangs in the air between them. Jones doesn't answer at first, his gaze fixed forward on the dark horizon where sea meets sky. He's seen too much action in the Mediterranean and Atlantic to doubt himself now. The battle's already begun in his mind, playing out in dozens of potential outcomes. "We're ready," he says with finality, ending the discussion. At 04:00 a.m., 10 miles from Saint-Nazaire, as the ship approaches its target, the soft clinking of metal and the steady hum of machinery fill the air. Jones's thoughts are a whirlwind of calculations, trajectories, timing, impact velocities, all flashing through his mind in rapid succession. The air feels heavier somehow, pressing against him as though the weight of the plan itself is suffocating him. The port comes into view through the clearing mist, the silvery moonlight revealing the German fortifications in stark detail. "Visibility's worsening again," Parker mutters, checking the instruments. The coastal defences are now visible as dark shapes against the shoreline. Jones watches as the silhouette of the port gate rises against the horizon like a massive steel barrier. The entire port is bristling with anti-aircraft guns and spotlights, their beams sweeping the water in coordinated patterns. Intelligence reports had estimated 42 defensive positions, each capable of tearing through a ship's hull. The crew begins the final sequence to set the charge. The men working on the explosives in the forward compartment look nervous but determined, their movements precise despite the tension. As Jones watches them through the bridge window, something deep inside him flickers, doubt perhaps, or simply fear of the unknown. This is it. This is what they've trained for at Portsmouth and Scapa Flow. The sounds of the crew's preparation fade into background noise as he hears a voice crackling through the radio set. "Approaching the target zone," Reynolds calls out from the navigation station, his finger tracing their position on the chart. Jones feels his heart pounding harder, a steady drumbeat in his chest. The sensation in his gut is a mixture of adrenaline and dread, the kind that comes before irreversible action. The ship is almost within range of the coastal batteries now. Jones inhales sharply, eyes never leaving the horizon ahead. The countdown is ticking in his head, each second bringing them closer to the point of no return. Around him, the bridge crew maintains their stations with professional calm. At 04:10 a.m., 5 miles from Saint-Nazaire, the ship comes under fire for the first time. Flashes light up the sky like sudden lightning as tracers burst through the darkness, narrowly missing the hull by mere meters. The crew is moving faster now, more urgently, their training taking over. Jones stands at the front of the bridge, every fibre of his being locked on the target ahead. His heart thunders in his chest, adrenaline sharpening his senses. Sweat drips down his face despite the cold air as he watches the flak tearing through the sky above. "Faster, goddammit," Jones growls, turning to Parker with fierce intensity. "We need to hit that gate before they coordinate their fire." The German gunners are finding their range, adjusting their aim with each salvo. The sound of a burst of machine gun fire rattles the ship's superstructure, sending shudders through its frame. The noise is deafening, the pounding of metal against metal creating a hellish symphony. His hands tighten on the railing until his fingers ache. This was never going to be easy, he reminds himself. The ship is shaking with every hit it takes, the metal groaning as if the vessel itself knows it's not long for this world. The crew is working frantically below, sealing the explosives in place, double-checking connections and detonation sequences. Every man knows his role in the next few minutes. "Brace for impact," Parker yells as the ship lurches under another hit from a shore battery. The shell strikes the aft section, tearing through non-critical areas but causing the Campbeltown to shudder violently. How much longer can we take this punishment? Jones wonders, though his face reveals nothing. The site of the German fortifications is too close now, the details becoming clearer with each passing moment. There's no turning back, no abort procedure that makes sense. They're committed. The distance closes to 4 miles, then 3. Each second brings new fire from the shore. At 04:20 a.m., 2 miles from Saint-Nazaire, the first sign of success appears. The port's defences are distracted by something. The loud explosions of nearby Allied bombardment have drawn their attention to the eastern sector. Now or never, Jones thinks, recognizing the brief window. The radio crackles again with an update. 1 mile to target, defensive fire shifting north. Jones's mouth goes dry as the reality of the moment settles over him. He reaches for the switch that will ignite the charge sequence, but his hand hesitates. For just a fraction of a second, there's a sudden pressure on his chest, an uncomfortable awareness of the enormity of the situation and what it means for everyone aboard. This single action will determine whether thousands of Allied soldiers can land safely. "Sir," Parker says urgently, his voice cutting through Jones's thoughts, "we're too close now. This is it, the moment." Parker's face is tense, waiting for the order. Jones knows this. His finger moves to the switch mounted on the console. The arming mechanism clicks into place. He pulls it without further hesitation, muscle memory taking over. The ship lurches again, but this time it's different from the enemy fire. This time the vibration comes from within as the priming charges activate. A loud roar fills the air, building in intensity. The front of the Campbeltown seems to surge forward with new purpose as the ram charges toward the dock gate at maximum speed. The engine room crew has pushed the turbines beyond their rated capacity, squeezing every last knot from the aging destroyer. Searchlights find them now, bathing the ship in brilliant white light. The Germans have realized the threat. Machine gun fire intensifies, tracer rounds creating bright arcs across the water. Jones stands firm on the bridge, watching the gate grow larger in his vision. The Campbeltown's bow, reinforced with concrete and steel plating, aims directly at the center of the massive barrier. "Hold steady," Jones commands, his voice carrying over the chaos. At 04:25 a.m., 1 mile from Saint-Nazaire, the intensity of defensive fire reaches its peak. Every German gun within range opens up on the Campbeltown, recognizing the threat too late to stop the momentum. The destroyer takes hit after hit, but its vital systems remain intact. Jones feels each impact through the deck plates beneath his feet, the vibrations traveling up through his legs. The smell of cordite and burning paint fills the bridge as smoke begins to drift through ventilation systems. Lieutenant Parker is shouting coordinates to the helmsman, his voice barely audible over the cacophony. The ship's speed holds at 16 knots, despite the damage accumulating along the hull. Reynolds checks their bearing one final time, confirming they're lined up perfectly with the gate's center point. "On target," he reports, his voice remarkably steady given the circumstances. The mathematical precision required for this moment has been achieved. Below decks, the demolition team makes final adjustments to the timing mechanisms. The explosive charges, over 4 tons of depth charges packed into the forward compartments, are armed and ready. The detonation sequence is set for a delayed explosion timed to cause maximum structural damage. These men know they may not survive to see the result of their work. The Campbeltown closes the distance rapidly now. 1/2 mile. The gate looms massive before them, a steel structure designed to withstand storms and prevent unauthorized entry. It was never designed to withstand a 1,090-ton destroyer traveling at ramming speed. Jones grips the console, his eyes fixed on the target. This is the culmination of weeks of planning, converted into seconds of action. Brace, brace, brace. Parker's voice cuts through the noise, the warning repeated 3 times. The crew grabs onto anything bolted down, preparing for the collision they've trained for. Jones plants his feet wide, knees slightly bent, ready for the impact that will either make history or end in catastrophic failure. The gate fills his entire field of vision now. 300 yards, 200, 100, the bow strikes. At 04:28 a.m., the HMS Campbeltown makes contact with the dock gate of Saint-Nazaire. The collision produces a sound unlike anything the crew has experienced. A tremendous grinding, tearing screech of metal against metal. The force of the impact throws men forward despite their preparations. Jones slams into the console, his ribs taking the brunt of the impact. Pain shoots through his chest, but he remains conscious, aware. Around him, the bridge crew struggles to regain their footing. The destroyer's specially reinforced bow crumples as designed, but the momentum carries the vessel forward, driving deep into the gate structure. The concrete-filled compartments at the bow act as a massive battering ram, transferring the ship's kinetic energy directly into the gate. Steel beams twist and buckle under the force. The gate, designed to hold back water pressure, was not engineered to withstand this type of assault. The ship shudders violently as it comes to rest, the bow wedged firmly into the compromised gate structure. Steam hisses from ruptured pipes. The engine room reports loss of power to the main turbines. The Campbeltown is now stationary, embedded in the target exactly as planned. Jones pulls himself upright, tasting blood in his mouth. "Damage report," he orders, his voice hoarse. Parker checks the communication systems. Forward compartments breached, but charges intact. Crew casualties unknown. Engine room flooded. The radio operator attempts to raise headquarters, transmitting the mission success code. Whether the message gets through is uncertain given the damage to the antenna array. The German defenders, momentarily stunned by the collision, begin to recover. Small arms fire pings against the Campbeltowns hull as soldiers rush toward the embedded vessel. Jones looks at his watch, noting the time. The delayed detonation is set for several hours from now, giving the crew time to evacuate, if possible, and creating uncertainty among German forces about the true nature of the attack. "Prepare to abandon ship," Jones orders. The crew begins the evacuation procedure, knowing German troops are closing in. The mission's first phase is complete. At 04:35 a.m., the evacuation of HMS Campbeltown begins under intense enemy fire. The crew moves with practiced efficiency despite the chaos, abandoning the embedded destroyer through multiple exit points. Jones oversees the process from the bridge, ensuring each section reports clear before moving to the next. The German defenders are closing in from multiple directions, their confusion about the ramming attack beginning to fade. Small boats that accompanied the Campbeltown on the raid attempt to extract crew members from the water. Machine gun fire from both sides creates deadly crossfire patterns across the dock area. The darkness provides some cover, but searchlights sweep back and forth, illuminating the scene in harsh white light. Tracers arc through the air like deadly fireflies, their paths creating geometric patterns against the pre-dawn sky. Reynolds coordinates the evacuation alongside Parker, both men shouting orders over the gunfire. The crew moves in groups, taking cover where possible, rushing across exposed areas. Some men don't make it off the ship, cut down by enemy fire or trapped below decks. The exact number of casualties won't be known for hours, possibly days. Each loss weighs heavily on Jones. though he maintains his command presence. The demolition team confirms all charges remain active before they evacuate. The timing mechanisms tick steadily, counting down to the moment when 4 tons of explosives will detonate. The Germans boarding the ship don't yet understand what sits in the Campbeltown's forward compartments. They believe they're securing a damaged enemy vessel, unaware they're standing next to a massive bomb. Jones is among the last to leave the bridge, taking one final look at the control room where he commanded this unlikely mission. The maps, instruments, and personal effects of the crew remain scattered where they fell during the collision. He makes his way down to the main deck, joining Parker and Reynolds at the starboard rail. Together, they drop into the cold channel water, striking out for the nearest recovery boat. Behind them, the Campbeltown sits silent, wedged in the gate, waiting for its final moment of purpose. At 10:30 a.m., June 6, 1944, 6 hours after the ramming, the delayed charges aboard HMS Campbeltown detonate. The explosion is massive, far exceeding the expected yield due to the confined space and structural configuration. 4 tons of depth charges explode simultaneously in the forward compartments, the blast channeled directly into the gate, structure and surrounding dock facilities. The sound carries for miles across the water and inland, a deep, thunderous boom that rattles windows in nearby towns. The gate structure disintegrates immediately. Steel beams weighing several tons, each are thrown hundreds of feet through the air. The dry dock floods rapidly as channel water rushes through the breach. German personnel, who had spent the morning examining the Campbeltown, are killed instantly in the blast. The exact casualty count varies in different reports, but estimates suggest over 200 enemy personnel were in the immediate blast radius. The destruction extends beyond the immediate target. Adjacent dock facilities collapse as the shockwave propagates through the structural connections. Cranes topple, warehouses crumble, and fuel storage tanks rupture. Secondary explosions follow as diesel and ammunition stores ignite. Black smoke rises thousands of feet into the air, visible to Allied reconnaissance aircraft conducting post-invasion surveys of the Normandy coast. Allied headquarters receives confirmation of the explosion through multiple channels. Reconnaissance photos taken later that day show the extent of the devastation. The dry dock, once capable of servicing the largest warships in the German fleet, is completely destroyed. Water fills the basin to a depth that makes any repair operation impossible without first pumping out millions of gallons. The timeline for making the facility operational again stretches to years, not months. Jones, now aboard a rescue vessel heading back to England, receives word of the successful detonation via radio message. His ribs are wrapped, minor burns treated, but he's alive and conscious. The cost in lives, both British and German, weighs on his mind, but the strategic objective has been achieved. The port of Saint-Nazaire is closed to enemy naval operations for the foreseeable future. The invasion fleet continues landing troops on the beaches. At 11 a.m., Allied command assesses the full impact of the Campbeltown operation while simultaneously managing the ongoing D-Day landings. Radio traffic increases as units report their status along the Normandy beaches. The successful destruction of Saint-Nazaire's dock gate has removed a potential threat to the invasion fleet's southern flank. Naval planners had feared German capital ships could sortie from the protected port to attack landing craft and supply vessels. The elimination of this possibility allows Allied naval forces to concentrate on supporting the beach assaults without maintaining a defensive screen against major surface threats from the south. Destroyers and cruisers that might have been assigned to guard against a Saint-Nazaire sortie are instead providing direct fire support to troops pinned down on Omaha and Utah beaches. The cascading effects of the early morning raid ripple through the entire operational plan. Intelligence officers begin the process of battle damage, assessment using all available sources. Reconnaissance aircraft photograph the smoking ruins from multiple angles. Resistance networks in France send reports through covert channels. The photos show devastation exceeding initial projections. The dry dock basin itself has suffered structural damage that may be irreparable. Concrete foundations have cracked and shifted. The gate housing is completely destroyed. German radio traffic, intercepted and decoded, reveals confusion and recrimination about the ramming attack. Questions arise about how the Campbeltown penetrated the defensive perimeter. Some messages indicate belief that the explosion was accidental rather than planned. This misunderstanding works to Allied advantage, suggesting German intelligence failed to anticipate the delayed detonation tactic. The psychological impact on German naval command is significant. By noon, the strategic picture is clear. The Campbeltown's sacrifice has achieved its objective. The port of Saint-Nazaire is closed indefinitely. No German heavy units can use the facility for repairs or resupply. The Allied invasion has one fewer complication to manage. Jones's gamble, his one-way trip, has paid off in ways that will be measured in the weeks and months ahead. The mission, planned in secrecy and executed in darkness, has altered the calculus of the entire Normandy campaign. The war continues, but one critical German asset is gone. At 02:00 p.m., June 6, 1944, the full scope of the day's operations begins to crystallize. The Campbeltown raid, initially planned as a standalone operation, is now recognized as an integral component of the larger D-Day strategy. The timing of the explosion, occurring after the beach landings had commenced, created maximum disruption to German command and control systems. Enemy forces had to respond simultaneously to the beach invasions and the catastrophic loss of Saint-Nazaire's naval facilities. The psychological warfare aspect of the attack proves as valuable as the physical destruction. German commanders, already struggling to coordinate responses to the Normandy landings, now face the reality that Allied forces can strike deep into supposedly secure installations. The audacity of ramming a destroyer directly into a fortified port challenges assumptions about defensive adequacy. Questions arise throughout the German chain of command about vulnerability of other coastal facilities. Captain Jones, aboard the rescue vessel, drafts his after-action report despite his injuries. The clinical language of military documentation cannot fully capture the intensity of the experience, but he records what can be measured and verified. The ship reached the target at 04:28 hours. Impact occurred at the designated point. Explosive charges detonated at 10:30 hours. Crew casualties are being tallied as survivors are accounted for. The gate is destroyed. Mission accomplished. Parker and Reynolds sit nearby, also documenting their observations. The three officers compare notes, ensuring accuracy in their reports. The official record will draw from multiple sources, cross-referencing accounts to establish the most reliable timeline. In the years ahead, historians will analyze these documents to understand how the operation unfolded, what worked, what didn't, and what lessons can be applied to future combined operations. The English Channel continues to churn with activity. Landing craft shuttle back and forth between the beaches and the invasion fleet. Casualties mount on both sides as the battle for Normandy intensifies. The Campbeltown's explosion is already becoming part of the larger narrative, one data point in a massive military operation. But for Jones and his crew, it remains intensely personal. At 05:00 p.m., June 6, 1944, aboard the rescue vessel, now entering Portsmouth Harbour, Jones watches the English coastline take shape through the salt-stained windows. The ship carries survivors from multiple operations, men pulled from the Channel, after various engagements along the coast. Medical personnel move among the wounded, providing care and documenting injuries. The smell of antiseptic mixes with the ever-present odour of seawater and diesel fuel. The Campbeltown is gone, resting at the bottom of Saint-Nazaire's harbour, its hull torn apart by its own explosive charges. The destroyer, commissioned in 1919 and veteran of convoy duty in the Atlantic, met its end as a weapon rather than a warship. The engineering modifications that transformed it into a guided missile worked exactly as designed. The ship served its final purpose with mechanical precision. Jones thinks about the men who didn't make it off the destroyer. Their names will appear on casualty lists being compiled by administration officers back at headquarters. Families will receive telegrams in the coming days, brief notifications of loss that can never adequately explain the circumstances. The cold mathematics of war reduce individual lives to statistics, even as those statistics represent immeasurable personal grief. Parker approaches, his uniform still damp from the Channel. The preliminary count has us at 37 crew recovered, sir. Still verifying the others. Jones nods, accepting the information without comment. 37 out of how many? The full roster count will determine the mission's human cost. Some men may have been captured rather than killed, though the explosion's timing makes survival unlikely for anyone still aboard at 10:30 hours. The rescue vessel ties up at the dock. A crowd has gathered. Military personnel, dock workers, civilians who heard about the morning's operations. The D-Day landings dominate all conversation and concern, but word of the Saint-Nazaire attack has spread. Jones and his crew disembark, stepping onto solid ground for the first time in over 15 hours. The firmness of the dock feels strange after the constant motion of ships. Debriefings will begin soon. For now, there's just the relief of survival. At 08:12 p.m., June the 6th, 1944, as the sun sets over England, the first comprehensive reports about the Campbeltown operation reach senior Allied commanders. The dispatches detail the successful ramming, the delayed detonation, and the confirmed destruction of the Saint-Nazaire dry dock facility. Analysts attach strategic assessments outlining the operational benefits: removal of major surface threat, disruption of German naval logistics, and psychological impact on enemy morale and defensive planning. The mission's success validates the concept of converting expendable vessels into kinetic weapons. The tactical innovation demonstrated by the Campbeltown raid will influence naval planning for years to come. The idea that an obsolete destroyer, properly modified and skillfully commanded, can eliminate a heavily defended strategic asset challenges conventional thinking about naval operations. The cost-benefit analysis strongly favours such operations when conditions permit. Jones completes his formal debriefing at Portsmouth Naval Headquarters, answering detailed questions about timing, navigation, enemy response, and crew performance. His answers are factual and measured, focusing on observable events rather than personal impressions. The debriefing officers record everything, building the official historical record that will inform future operations and, eventually, public understanding of the mission. The human cost becomes clearer as casualty reports are finalized. The Campbeltown operation resulted in significant losses, though the exact numbers remain subject to verification as prisoners are identified and confirmed dead are distinguished from missing, presumed dead. Each name represents a family forever changed, a community diminished. The strategic victory cannot erase these losses, only attempt to justify them through achieved objectives. Across the Channel, in the ruins of Saint-Nazaire's naval facilities, German engineers begin the overwhelming task of damage assessment. The dry dock is beyond immediate repair. The gate structure would need to be completely rebuilt before the basin could be pumped out and restored to functionality. Material shortages, Allied air superiority, and the ongoing demands of the Eastern Front make major reconstruction effectively impossible. The facility is lost for the remainder of the war. By nightfall, the first day of the Normandy invasion is ending. The Campbeltown's contribution, one element among thousands, has been recorded. The official after-action report filed on June 8, 1944, documented the HMS Campbeltown operation with clinical precision. The ship departed at 01:30 hours, reached the target at 04:28 hours, and detonated at 10:30 hours. The mission destroyed the dry dock gate and rendered the port facility inoperable for strategic purposes. Crew casualties were recorded alongside mission success metrics. The report concluded with a single understated line: "Objective achieved. Installation neutralized." In the months following D-Day, aerial reconnaissance continued photographing Saint-Nazaire. The images showed no significant reconstruction efforts. The dry dock remained flooded and unusable. German naval operations in the Atlantic continued from other ports, but the loss of Saint-Nazaire's unique capabilities represented a permanent degradation of enemy infrastructure. The Campbeltown had eliminated an asset that couldn't be replaced. Captain Hugh W. Jones returned to active duty after recovering from his injuries, commanding other vessels in operations through the remainder of the European War. He rarely spoke publicly about the Saint-Nazaire raid, maintaining the professional reserve common among naval officers of his generation. The mission was one operation among many, one day in a long war. The men who died aboard the Campbeltown, or in the subsequent explosion, were commemorated in various ways: cemetery markers, memorial walls, official histories. Their families received medals and commendations that could never substitute for absent fathers, sons, and brothers. The war consumed countless lives in pursuit of strategic objectives. The Campbeltown crew's sacrifice was multiplied thousands of times across all theatres of operation. Decades later, historians would analyse the Saint-Nazaire raid within the larger context of D-Day planning and execution. The operation exemplified combined arms thinking, innovative tactics, and the willingness to accept high-risk missions when strategic value justified the danger. The conversion of an obsolete destroyer into a precision weapon demonstrated creative problem-solving under pressure. The gate at Saint-Nazaire never reopened. The Campbeltown accomplished its mission. In the end, the historical record shows only what can be measured: dates, times, tonnage, casualties, and destruction. The rest, the fear, determination, and human cost, exists between the lines of official reports, preserved in memory rather than documentation. The file closed without extensive commentary. The numbers had already rewritten the war.